Hey guys, this week we're talking about a pretty important period in psychology where it seems like true experimentation seems to be integrating its way into the development of the field, and there seems to be more of an emphasis on objectivity, and it really seems to be heading in that trajectory. So the first part of the discussion in this week was psychophysics, which is really, like a lot of people brought up, was drew the connection between the subjective phenomena that people had been studying and been curious about for some time before this, and drawing that connection to those phenomena and physical laws that were already known. Um, so with psychophysics, we saw people like Weber and Fechner create probably the first truly experimental, verifiable research uh, in terms of sensation and perception, looking at things like the just noticeable difference. So the point in time at which somebody could perceive a change in some kind of stimuli, and even though it was pretty rudimentary, I think it was extremely important because these guys were able to quantify these subjective phenomena like perception. Um, and I think they developed an experimental process that's still being used today. This idea that we can sort of translate perception, sensation, and even more complex subjective phenomenon into experimental verifiable research. And then moving forward from that, we see Ebbinghaus, who probably took one of the first stabs at taking that same process but quantifying a much more complex phenomenon, which was memory. I think he was another player, as a couple people mentioned, that was key in really making that official break from philosophy and moving into the world of objective science. So, running experiments and designing them in such a way that other researchers can replicate them, verify them, or refute them. I think it's important uh, to remember how much of an influence Fechner had on him with his book, The Elements of Psychophysics, and how that book really showed that these psychological phenomena could be studied, and this actually could be a science. So Ebbinghaus created his forgetting curve, which I think it was a huge step forward in terms of creating this scale with which we can study and understand something that's really intangible and subjective, like memory. He also developed this eclectic methodology, which I think is something that influenced scientists in all fields. This idea that we should use whatever method is appropriate for what we're trying to achieve. So we're not locked into one approach. We're open to whatever achieves the best experimental verifiable results.